Hey everybody, it's GauntletX, and today we're going to be playing my final Premier draft of Pioneer Masters. These are finally rotating off Arena for flashback draft season, leading up to the launch of Aether Drift. So soon enough, we're going to be playing Duskmourn, Outlaws of Thunder Junction, March of the Machine, and Chromatic Cube drafts. But for today, let's see if we can't end the Pioneer Masters format with a bang here. This is going to be the Devotion bonus sheet era as well, so we have the potential of drafting yet another Theros god. That would be a super sweet way to end it off, but whatever happens here, let's just do some goofy nonsense and see if we can't have some fun with this format for the last time until they bring it back in some kind of flashback draft, probably half a year from now or something. All right, so for our pack one, pick one, there's already a ton of different powerful directions to go. Starfield of Nyx is the boldest and probably weakest generally. You need to be in a super enchantment heavy deck, but then this can be pretty good over the course of a long game, returning an enchantment from your grave to the battlefield every single turn. If you have 5 or more enchantments on board, all of your enchantments become creatures with power and toughness equal to their mana value. Drafted this a couple times actually, and I don't think I've ever even gotten to cast it. Like we played this in our last Selesnya aggro deck, and it was cool, but I never got to cast it. So we could take that as an interesting direction to go that we haven't really gotten to see pop off. But there's other powerful cards here, both in blue. The Murmuring Mystic spitting out a 1/1 flyer on every instant or sorcery you cast. That's pretty absurd. As well as the Night Veil Spectre. This is part of the Devotion bonus sheet. You really want to play this in mono blue, mono black, or blue black because the mana cost is super restrictive. But this card is also super powerful, ripping cards out of your opponent's library and casting them against them. So let's go for some blue stuff. We played a lot of aggro lately. It hasn't just been mono red aggro. I've done mono red and Selesnya and other aggro decks, but maybe we can head to a more controlling direction to show off a little more variety in this format than just ending with like 4 or 5 aggro drafts in a row. That said, pick 2 has basically nothing for the blue-black deck. Gurmag Angler would be fine, but I am not taking it pick 2. You only really want one copy of it. And Ingenious Scab is also super filler, so here we have just some really strong multicolored options like Blood Tithe Harvester and Sin Collector. And that's honestly about it. I mean, we could even take the Guild Gate, leaning towards that 5-color Gates deck, but I got bored of that archetype real fast in this format, so I don't think I'm going to do that. We'll take the Blood Tithe Harvester. It is also possible we could be like Grixis Control and use this card fine. This card is super strong because it fits into basically anything. It's going to be best in aggro. You get a 2-mana 3/2. You get mana flood prevention with that blood token, and you get a removal spell on a stick. If you need to use this as removal, then go ahead and do that. Sack the Harvester. -2/-2 something. It's just a really, really flexible card in terms of the different decks it can go into, as well as the things it can do during the game. So happy to take a Blood Tithe Harvester. For pick 3, we now have Gear per Gear Crafter. I think just for raw mana efficiency, I actually like this better than Priest of the Bloodright. Maybe I've just had bad experiences with the Priest, but I feel like often I'll just cast this and then the blue spell will just bounce the demon, and it's like, well. But Gear per Gear Crafter is so mana efficient, just slamming this down turn 3, getting a 2/1 and a 1/1 flyer, that it is quite the roadblock for more aggressive decks, while still providing you with good aggressive creatures of your own. Especially the flyer plays particularly well. I like Gear per Gearcrafter a lot. I think it's one of Red's best commons, and we start heading towards Rakdos off of the Blood Tithe Harvester here, maybe. It plays well both in defending yourself as well as being aggressive, so you don't even have to lock into aggro here for it. There's also an Essence Scatter, and of course the Priest of the Bloodright. I think those are the main cards in contention. There's also an Accent Mead. This is tremendously powerful in Boros Heroic, but that obviously would lock us into a specific 2-color pair that's also a really aggressive deck. All right. Do we end with 5-color gates again? 100% trying to win. We're probably supposed to take Gates Ablaze and go for a controlling at least 3-color, probably like 5-color Gates deck here. I've got my removal spell on a stick. I've got my card engine for the late game. This is a huge roadblock, but I can stick to just pure Rakdos for now, taking the Dreadbore, and still play like Grixis control stuff and not have to go the full Gates direction. This is like a very biased pick here. If you want to win in this format, which I guess nobody watching this should be watching this trying to figure out how to win in Pioneer Masters at this point, because it's gone. It's off Arena like tomorrow. But if you were trying to just win, you should just take Gates Blaze and start taking a bunch of gates. But that started to bore me super fast in the set, so I'm going to stick to being able to do Grixis shenanigans and take a Dreadbore here. Here's another Gear Crafter. Really happy to see that. As I've already said, the whole spiel before, card is absurdly good and flexible. Here's a Rakdos Guildgate. That's going to help our mana a lot if we're splashing in a third color. We're really going to need some Guildgates, but even if we're just a 2-color Rakdos deck, it'll help the mana a bit. Pick 7. Is it time to be boring? Personally, if I weren't recording, this would probably be the pivot to mono red aggro and just take Ash Cell and try to go mono red aggro. But there's a spicy pick here too. Supernatural Stamina actually does look great in this deck because it works really well with Gear per Gear Crafter and Blood Tithe Harvester. That's 3 cards in our deck already. There are really cheap creatures to trade upwards with Supernatural Stamina, as well as cheap creatures with good Enters effects to redo. So when they die and come back and trigger their Enter effect again, that plays really well. So I like the Supernatural Stamina here. That does seem kind of spicy. Sanitarium Skeleton actually has some decks it's good in as well. There are some sacrifice cards. Strangely enough, though, generally in my experience, Rakdos is not quite a sack deck in this format. There are Nantuko Husks for it, but Orzhov is the better sack deck because there's so much better sack fodder in white. We've got a Disciple here, pick 8. Painful Truths can be a 3-mana draw 3, lose 3 if we go 3 color, like splashing a little bit of blue alongside our Spectre here. We could play the Spectre for pure Rakdos if I'm much deeper to black than red too, I guess. And the Spectre is triple black Devotion for Disciple, making this so we can pick any card in our opponent's hand and make them discard it. The Disciple also another card that we can reanimate with Supernatural Stamina and make our opponent discard an additional card. Kind of talked myself into the Disciple there, that's pretty annoying. Speaking of pretty annoying, recasting a Gear Crafter off of Swift Warkite is also great. The Warkite is going to slap that Gear Crafter right back on the board, give us the Thopter token, and then in the end step, put the Gear Crafter back in our hand so we can recast it again, get another Thopter. Warkite plays really well with our double Gear Crafter. We may just be what looks like a general streamlined 2-color deck here, but we're actually like a really good grindy Rakdos deck right now, rather than being particularly aggressive ourselves. We're going to grind out the long game with some really great enter the battlefield value and potentially recurring it. So this could be a spicy way to end the format. This might not just be the millionth aggro deck in a row or anything. I'm really not high on Burning Anger. 1 removal spell gets you 2 for 1, pretty bad with it. I'll take Sin Collector speculatively instead, because if we do splash white towards this, this is another incredible card for Supernatural Stamina. So if we just take every Supernatural Stamina in the draft pod, Sin Collector could be spicy. Well, this is lucky. Nobody wants the Rakdos Guildgates, so it's going to make Night Veil Spectre much more castable in the deck, even if we're not mega deep towards black. All these Guildgates help a lot on that front. All right, we have quite the start going here. And our pack 2 pick 1 shows off another Disciple of Phynax. Show off all this devotion good stuff in our last possible opportunity. I'm sure if this format comes back for flashback drafts, that they're probably just going to put every single bonus sheet in it, or none of the bonus sheets. Something like that. I mean, we'll find out in the future whenever they do. Maybe this will just never have flashback drafts like Lord of the Rings. Kind of want to just mention that now. I want to draft Lord of the Rings again so bad, but it never came back for flashback drafts, I guess for licensing reasons. So as somebody who doesn't really care that they're doing all the Universes Beyond stuff and actually like kind of enjoys it, I think the Lord of the Rings cards are cool, even though I don't know Lord of the Rings super well. My biggest concern is the fact that because of licensing reasons, we might just never be able to draft those cards again on Arena. That is such a bummer, because Lord of the Rings was such a fun draft format. I've made this spiel before, but I just reminded myself that we haven't drafted Lord of the Rings in like, what, 2.5 years now or something? 1.5 years maybe? One of those things. And I miss it. I miss it dearly. We have triple Rakdos Guildgates, so Evolving Wilds doesn't look particularly exciting here. I like the Dreadhound since we're playing more mid-rangey, grindy, long game. Just get another huge finisher. I mean, honestly, another Gates. We could take this Gates Ablaze and not even have to be the 5-color Gates deck if I get more Rakdos Guildgates. If I get every Rakdos Guildgate in the draft pod, maybe. Yeah, Dreadhound's not going to be insanely exciting. I'll actually maybe do Gates Ablaze, really annoying controlling stuff. We can take half on color gates like Is It Guild Gates to help get there. Although Heartpiercer Manticore is pretty spicy, it plays well with Gear per Gear Crafter to be able to sack the Gear Crafter itself to clear out a 2 toughness card. Heartpiercer is the kind of card you can play in a more defensive red deck. It doesn't have to be an aggro. Boulder Salvo also for more removal. I'm currently just on Dreadbore, which is awkward. So taking a Guildgate over a potential removal spell like Boulder Salvo or even Heartpiercer Manticore, doing its best approximation of a removal spell, would be kind of bold. Yeah, I should take the Salvo over the Manticore here. Let's go for the Manticore. I think that's pretty cute. Pick number 4. No removal here. Just a good aggro creature. Soul Flare is probably an okay finisher. If we exile a Nightveil Spectre from our grave, it has flying. Or a Warkite from grave, it has flying. Okay, this is actually pretty bad in our deck. It's just like a really hard to cast Gurmag Angler. It's almost never getting an ability. If we get all the Nantuko husks in the draft pod, we can tap a Humble Defector to draw 2 cards and then sacrifice it to Nantuko husk before our opponent gains control of it. And that's the Wombo combo, right? Jump through a gigantic hoop to spend 2 mana to draw 2 cards. That's the sad part. It's like, sure, you can get that set up, but then it wasn't even like a blowout. 2 mana draw 2 is pretty good, but we've seen that before on blue spells like the 1 in a blue, draw 2, then discard 1 if you didn't attack this turn. And it's like, yeah, that's pretty good, but probably not worth the gigantic hoop of drawing the exact right 2 cards together like Humble Defector makes you do. Pick 5, another Supernatural Stamina. I'm just really into that nonsense going on with our Gear Crafters and Disciples, so I'm going to take that card real highly. There's no removal spells here, so that seems fine. I could take Pilgrim's Eye. That would help cast the Nightveil Spectre. This is the most difficult thing to cast in the whole deck, but we'll go for the Supernatural Stamina. Another Blood Scythe Harvester. All right, we're the only Rakdos drafter, and that's cool with me. I'll take another removal spell on a stick because I need more removal. Might only be just a -2/-2 sorcery, but that is still some amounts of removal, and whenever that's not good enough to kill anything, we can just beat down with a 3/2. Pick 7. I don't have a million 4-power creatures. I'm not super pumped about Boundary Lands. Ranger. Read the Bones is fine. Pilgrim's Eye could be fine if we do any other splashing. Read the Bones or Pilgrim's Eye. Pilgrim's Eye is fun with Supernatural Stamina as well. Sure. Pilgrim's Eye it up. Pick 8. Read the Bones. Half on color Guildgate. Ooh, Rescue from the Underworld could be kind of cute in here. I can sack a Gearcrafter or the Gearcrafter token, and maybe bring back something big like a Warkite if I get enough more big stuff. Sure, I have not played Rescue from the Underworld deck yet. I think the card is incredibly narrow, but it could be fun in here, especially since we do get another 6-drop now with the Dreadhound. Take that over Husk. Sorry, no Nantuko Husk Humble Defector combo in this deck. We're just going to get some random gigantic creatures to rescue. Gates Ablaze is looking like a cut here because I'm not spending the picks on off-color duels and we didn't see any more Rakdos duels. Pick 11, Boulder Salvo, sure. I need removal. Join us. I'm not hanging out with you, Humble Defector. This is maybe an okay Cutthroat deck, actually, but I'm going to take the Guildgate towards Gates Ablaze anyway. Bunch of flip lands. Pack 3, pick 1. Gear per Gear Crafter number 3, baby. Come on, we got double Supernatural Stamina. We have to. No, there's a Dreadbore. There's a Dreadbore. And that stops us from the fun shenanigans there. Pack 3, pick 2. I can have 2 Orzhov Guildgates and a Plains in this deck to play this Sin Collector now. Just for Sin Collector Supernatural Stamina idiocy. Well, I'm doing it. This pack sucks, so I'm doing it. There's one good card for like a really aggressive red deck. But it's just like a good card, not a great one in the first place. Yeah, this pack is empty enough to easily just go Guildgate, help our gates ablaze, and maybe do Sin Collector. Goofy nonsense. I was going to say this was a difficult pick, and then I saw the best card in the format. Supernatural Stamina, copy number 3, baby. Even our 6-drop finishers work with Supernatural Stamina. This dies, I recur it and recur another card. This dies, I recur it, mill more and ping more. I think almost every single creature in our deck is pretty spicy with Supernatural Stamina. This is just the Supernatural Stamina theme deck. Night Howler. Oh, there's a Gear Crafter here too? Gear Crafter's better with Supernatural Stamina, but Night Howler gives us a really good win condition. Being able to bestow that onto anything turns it into a giant threat you have to kill, and once your opponent kills it, you're still left with another giant threat they have to kill. I think Night Howler's just pretty fantastic, especially in this grindier kind of deck. There's going to be a lot of stuff in the grave by the time that the games end. We are not a fanatic of Mogi's deck, but we're definitely a gear per Gear Crafter deck. I could add like 5 Gear Crafters if I didn't take Dreadbore and I didn't take Night Howler, but I think those cards are just so good, we kind of had to. Dreadbore, turn 2. Over creatures. 1 out of every 3 lands in our deck will be a gate if I grab a 6th Guild Gate here. So by turn 6, that's 2 gates on board for Gates Ablaze to be 2 damage. I don't know if we quite got to Gates Ablaze. Wow, we did get pick 6 Dreadbore, though. Sorry, is it Guildgate? Right when I was saying that we probably don't make it to Gates Ablaze, I'm gonna not take a gate because Dreadbore is just so good. I have triple Dreadbore, double Blood Tithe Harvester, Boulder Salvo, maybe Gates Ablaze. I'm probably shouldn't, but I'm gonna pass up on Boulder Salvo to take another Supernatural Stamina and have the full play set. See, because then we get a 3rd Blood Tithe Harvester. I could take a 5th Supernatural Stamina. I'm not gonna go so crazy to take a 5th Stamina over another Blood Tithe Harvester. I still need good 2 drops, and that's a great one. This deck is harvesting some stamina. How did the deck box change back to Nightveil Spectre? It's weird. Pick 10. Another Akoum Warrior. Probably gets cut. I'm not too interested in all these spell lands. Pick 11. Half on color Guildgate. So if I get just like 1 more, I think Gates Blaze is probably enough at like 7 Guildgates. So just give me 1 red or black Guildgate in the final few picks. So unlikely, but sometimes you get there. Maybe I should take Devour Flesh, but I'm going to take Izzet Guildgate and I'm going to run Gates Ablaze at that point. Wow, okay. We got 2 Izzet Guildgate in a row. Now I can definitely run Gates Ablaze. And the cute thing is that Izzet Guildgate is not just a comes into play tapped mountain in this deck. It's a comes into play tapped mountain that can cast Nightveil Spectre. So slightly better than a comes into play tapped mountain. There's that. All right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 gates. Yeah, we can Gates Ablaze. That's going to be half our lands. So, Gates Ablaze turn 4, on average 2 damage. Gates Ablaze turn 6, on average 3 damage. Good enough. Probably drop the Halo Scarabs. The Akoum Warriors are real mediocre. I could play Palaka Predation in this deck. It's more controlling gear. Sanitarium Skeleton, there's not a lot of sack nonsense going on. Boundary Lands Ranger's not that exciting. I am lower on cheap cards, but I still have the Harvesters and all the Dreadbores I can play early. And tons of 3-drops that are nice and defensive. So I enjoy that. Still have to cut 6 cards. My god. To cut a lot out of this deck. Oh, it's because of the supernatural staminas. If we cut all the supernatural staminas, it's like there's a deck. But I need room for my idiocy. Okay, I'll cut the secret 5th copy. We'll just run a full playset. We'll do that at least. Rescue from the Underworld plays pretty similar to Supernatural Stamina. Gets us 2 cards of value, but for like 1,000,000 mana. So I almost prefer the Staminas just as being so much cheaper. And more easily, consistently castable. I'm just going to drop that. We're 17 lands plus Palaka Predation. I do not need that much mana, especially with the Pilgrim's Eye, so I'm going to drop 1 of these lands, kind of plains. I'll have to refigure out the mana base after we build everything. 3 more cuts still. I think it has to be some combination of these. What's our most mediocre creatures? Maybe Night Veil Spectre is just too hard to cast. It's one of our spiciest creatures, though. I could cut another 6-drop. A little high on those. Get over there. There we go. 3 cuts. 1, 2, 3. There. Pure instinct mode. Those are the cuts. Why? Because instinct brain said so. We have 17 black cards, 13 red, and the 1 Sin Collector. For our sources, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 black sources. That's pretty good. It's 12 sources towards Night Veil Spectre. That's pretty good. So, yeah, 10 black sources for our 17 black cards. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 red sources. This mana base is good. 10-9 split. A Pilgrim's Eye too. Find the plains or our main colors. Double Izzet Guildgate giving us 12 Spectre sources plus of course the Pilgrim's Eye. Sure. Actually agree with the auto suggester outside of course cutting a plains. But yeah. Call it a deck here. This is a pretty spicy way to end off the Pioneer Masters format, just doing a bunch of supernatural stamina nonsense, as well as playing a bunch of those devotion bonus sheet cards with Night Veil Spectre and a couple Disciple of Phynaxes. So without further ado, let's hop into the gameplay and see if we can't end off the Pioneer Masters format with a bang. All right, here we are on the play for game 1. If our opponent's aggressive, we have a Gates Ablaze with 2 gates no matter what. We've also got an early Dreadbore. Opponent is on green, and that's all we know for now. Selesnya. Selesnya can be pretty aggressive. There's the Hero of Iroas. If they just play another creature instead of targeting that, then our Gates Ablaze could go pretty ham here. I'm not going to just Dreadbore it immediately with Gates Ablaze in the hand. If they play a second creature, I think I'll be perfectly happy to just Gates Ablaze 2 creatures with the backup Dreadbore available. Crawl Harpooner, yeah. They're stuck on 2 lands as well? Okay, I'm also stuck on 3 lands. If I Gates Ablaze, I don't play a land this turn. I could Pilgrim's Eye. Gates Ablaze next turn. Yeah, I'm gonna Pilgrim's Eye red source. Well, I could Pilgrim's Eye Swamp and have Supernatural Stamina up. That's kind of cheeky. I guess I don't really cast it if I'm going to Gates Ablaze, though. You know what? Even if I Gates Ablaze, just the added value of drawing another land here is fine. I definitely want more mana. So I'm basically just cycling Supernatural Stamina to draw a basic land. Or pull a removal spell out from my opponent's hand. Or combat trick. Sure. Combat trick the non-heroic creature. Plays fine for us. That also basically ripped the creature out of their hand anyway. They don't get the 2/2 off the Selesnya Charm anymore. Double Disciple of Phoenix is a pretty solid blocker. Set that up. I'm still kind of max greeting the Gates Ablaze here, because I don't think I'm really at risk of dying next turn or anything. Gnarlback Rhino, Conclave Naturalist. Okay, we need a 4th gate. Is what I'm seeing. They are 2 lands away from Conclave Naturalist, but that does kill my Pilgrim's Eye. I feel like we just get rid of the card they're closer to casting, though. Pilgrim's Eye will die to the Gates Ablaze before Conclave Naturalist resolves anyway. Aw, Crawl Harpooner. Rude. That also kills Pilgrim's Eye. Okay, Gates Ablaze, Gearcrafter time. There's land 4. It's a tap land for them. Harvester and Disciple looking at 3 of their cards. Aspect of Hydra, Selesnya Charm, Conclave Naturalist. Well, we get Conclave Naturalist. The card we did not get to see is Gnarlback Rhino. They have the Aspect of Hydra for it to draw a card, but Dreadbore is still going to kill it. Even if they draw the card off of it first, this does not give hexproof. So they're down to a Selesnya Charm and a random card in their hand. And then they do get another top deck here. Oh, I should have used the Blood Token before I cast Gearcrafter. I don't think there's a better 3-mana card to play, but there could have been. Yeah, Rakdos Guildgate is not a better play. I have 3 copies of Blood Tithe Harvester, so I guess I hold on to this Guildgate just in case I hit another one. Use the Blood Token to ditch this land. I've already got 6 mana, which is my most expensive spells in my deck. Another Gearcrafter? Sure. I can't Harvester the Eidolon because I don't have a Blood Token on board, so it does hold off my 2 ones. Well, what happens if they kill one here? They take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You know what? Sure. I put them to 2 life if I attack with all these, and they just get to kill 1 Gearcrafter for free. Oh, right, they have Selesnya Charm. So I guess they can get a Selesnya Charm trade, but Selesnya Charm does not give them another free kill. But the Selesnya Charm makes this a low enough amount of damage, maybe it wasn't worth the Trump attack with the other Gearcrafter, just to get 2 more damage in this turn. Looks like it stacks up well enough. That's going to be lethal to the next turn, so they scoop it up, and we are 1-0 heading into Game 2. Here we are, Game 2, with that unstoppable mana base. That's a turn 3 Nightveil Spectre because of the Izzet Guildgate. See? Better than a mountain. I told you. Beautiful. I can't Dreadboard instant speed, so we'll get the other Guildgate out of the way here. Nightveil Spectre is going to run straight into a removal spell, but whatever. Definitely our best play. As long as it doesn't run into them just, like, playing a second Blood Tithe Harvester, so they have 2 blood tokens, then it should be fine. If it's like an Omnixus's Cruelty or something. Yeah, Dreadbore, sure. That's fine. Hmm. I don't really love any of my options right now. I have a bunch of fine plays. So I'm just gonna... Pilgrim's Eye, that's a pretty good creature to put a Night Howler on. Because they have Urborg on board, and there's basically no way either of us is going to blow it up, the Swamp is our worst pickup. I don't have a white source at all yet, so I can grab this, and it is a scrub land. It's a black-white duel. I think scrubland is black-white. I don't know the original duels super well because I'm not filthy rich, and I started playing in 2009, so I haven't really played with the original duels. Scytheclaw Raptor. Hello there. If I find a third guild gate, Gates Ablaze is going to be pretty good. Night Howler's still just +1/+1. Stitch a blood token here to do some digging. Am I gonna Dreadbore the Scytheclaw Raptor? No, because this is the guild gate I need to Gates Ablaze for 3. Playing against Grixis. It's pretty mirror matchy. Slower, more mid-rangey deck with black and red at the core. There's the Wild Slash. We're happy to see any amount of removal before our Gates Ablaze, because that gets them to discard a few additional cards for it. Oh, let's go. It's going to kill this Night Veil Spectre. Feels good. Feels good. I could just play a 6/6, but then if they have one more Dreadbore, they delete it. So I'm going to wait. If we draw any creature, bestow this onto literally anything, and it's going to pull 2 removal spells out of their deck instead of just 1. So I'm going to wait for that. Draws are not good. Really don't have to Dreadbore a Husk. I'll just take the 2 here. I can just play the Night Howler. Forces them to have removal in hand to get any damage in. I'm down to 11. I've taken a lot here. I'm going to give it one more turn at least. Undead Butler. Pretty good with the Husk. When that dies, they get a Spectre back, and that's going to be a massive problem. Oh, God. Well, that's horrible. Oh, God. Literal God. I cannot beat a Keranos, because I have no way in my deck to blow it up, because it's indestructible. And it's just going to lightning bolt me every time they draw a non-land card. Yeah, we're so dead. Because they just get the Husk a Keranos into hand and cast it next turn. Yeah. Yep. GG. Probably could have got through the Spectre, but the Keranos is way too much. And it's just all lands all day. Sadness on the stack. Have to just cast Night Howler now so that I can still have Dreadbore for the flyer. That's something. Make the Night Howler pretty big, get some extra pings here, have the tiniest chance in the world of outracing them. Mill 0 creatures. I milled 2 Dreadbores too? That's rough. Because now I can't, like, Dreadbore the Husk and expect to draw another one. So we just milled, like, all of our removal. That was going to be the game plan here, was Dreadbore the Husk to race. We hit them for 7 this turn, 1 trigger from Dreadhound, 6 damage from Night Howler. Try to get, like, a 2-turn kill off of removal attack, top deck removal attack. But I milled the removal. Oh, man. Maybe have a shot if I don't mill that removal, but here we go. Let's see. I'm going for that same game plan. It's still our best bet here. They go to 13. They're dead on the crackback if I can kill their Nightveil Spectre. Because then this is 13 power on our board because the Night Howler gets bigger. Plus they just have the Wild Slash to go with Keranos. God dang it. Literally, god dang it. Yeah, I think we had a solid plan for trying to lethal there with the Dreadhound. Again, one more removal spell, so say instead of milling all the Dreadboards, we draw one that next turn. Then the plan would be blow up their blocker, they get a Dreadhound ping, which puts them to 12, and I have 13 power because Night Howler gets bigger once the Spectre is in grave. So I think that was our best bet, was the just really aggressive plan there, but we got Keranos bad. All the direct damage to face there. It's possible if I just hardcast that Night Howler earlier, we could have won that game, but playing against Grixis, I think we just have to expect more Dreadbores from them. Generally, where it's safe to wait a turn or two to try to bestow it onto something, but that is what got us killed a little faster. If we had just a tiny bit more time, we only needed potentially 1 or 2 more turns to kill them, so had I just slammed down Night Howler the first turn available, might have survived that. Although I guess even if I did that, Night Howler would have been like a 5/5 blocker against Husk that just sacked 2 Butlers. It still would have been a 5/5 blocker against a 6/6, so I couldn't have even declared the block that turn. I don't know how much it actually impacts it. Maybe it wouldn't even have affected it enough for us to win. But it certainly would have been the safer play, potentially. I don't know. Rough ending. We are 1-1 heading into Game 3. Here we are now for Game 3. We have all the mana we need to jam everything in this hand on the board. So I will keep it. Get the Golgari Guildgate out of the way immediately, because that's going to be a tap land no matter what. If I do not draw any more lands, we can play Predation turn 2. But I probably want to go Mountain into Harvester and hopefully hit another land to be able to just cast Predation later. We'll see how we draw. Got the backup land, worst case scenario. Oh god! Turn 1 Legion Loyalist. I guess I shouldn't say oh god, this is not one of the Theros gods. It is terrifying though. 1/1 haste, they attack with 3 or more creatures and their whole board has first strike till end of turn. Boros aggro on the play, GG. We'll see. Here's Blood Tithe Harvester to try to stop some damage. See how bad of an idea that is. I should probably not declare a block, because Boros is known for running a million combat tricks where it's going to be better to take the damage passed back to us and then sack the Harvester trying to kill somebody, rather than block trying to kill somebody. I guess that only plays better, right, if we don't declare a block and they tap out for another creature. It's possible that we don't declare a block and they just still have the mana up for the trick anyway, and they use the trick when I try to Harvester their creature. I did not hit an untap land here. That is really, really bad. I played no blockers this turn. Blood Tithe Harvester, pray that it's not Sajiri Shelter in hand. I really feel like if they had Sajiri Shelter in hand, they would have attacked with Legionnaire, because then it's like if I block, they shelter. If I don't block, I activate it and they shelter it during my turn. If they have Sajiri Shelter in hand, they should have attacked with Legionnaire. So I'm just gonna hope they didn't. Ardenvale Tactician is what they had in hand. Dang it. Yep, that works. And that would explain no attack, but still have a trick up. because on attacks I still block with 3 power, but on activations I only do -2, -2. Man. Yeah, we're pretty dead. The worst part is I could have harvested any of their other creatures. And if I didn't harvester, then it goes to their turn, and in the end step they just tactician down my harvester and legionnaire. They still have a 3/3, and I have no blockers up that turn. I take all this damage, no matter how I play it. Like, I might still have a harvester on board, but it's a tapped harvester. I guess I'd take 1 less damage if I didn't activate harvester, because they could only heroic one of the 2 and tap my creature. Predation is going to be way too slow. We have to impact the board right now, so we ditch that to draw a card. Supernatural Stamina. Another Supernatural Stamina. Well, Gearcrafter's our best blocker. Although Legion Loyalist just completely shuts it off. I don't have any good blockers to play because I can't play Nightveil Spectre. I don't have the triple black. All of my blockers have 1 toughness. So no matter what, I can't block any of their creatures because everybody has first strike. Alright, well, Boros aggro got to be on the play against our all Taplands deck, and things went pretty expected. Sure. The double Ardenvale Tactician we were never blocking. At any point. Down to 3. And that's a game of Magic. We are on to game 4. Alright, here we are on the play for game 4. So if we're against Boros aggro again, we've got a chance this time. I have a Gates Ablaze and I'm on the play. No, please play something somewhat aggressive, or I'll be sad that I don't get to Gates Ablaze. They started with Golgari Guildgate, so... Yep, Golgari Goldgate, Gateway Plaza, and it's going to be a grindy matchup. Not a great spot for the Gates Ablaze, but decent spot for Warkite and Disciple-style nonsense. The stamina with these triggers as well could be good. Fiendslayer Paladin from the 5-color deck. Old double white card there, but got the 1/3 to block it. I can't even Dreadboard if I want to. I can Gates Ablaze it, because that doesn't target. Well, I suppose we'll take a forest from our opponent. I guess I should not have assumed my opponent is 5-color. I always do every time I see a Gateway Plaza, because I think this card's just pretty bad. I think it's really bad in a 2-color deck and still pretty bad in 3-color. At 4 and 5 colors where it starts to pay for the double tap lands. But yeah, it was possible they're just like green, black, white. But they are at least 4-color here. Blue, white, green, and black. Is it Guildgates? No 3-drop creature to go with Warkite still, so we are not trying to play that next turn. I actually don't even have double red for the Manticore, so we don't really have a play here. We just pass. I'm not Dreadboring a 2/4. And again, I can't Dreadbore the Fiendslayer. I'll just trade Supernatural Stamina into Fiendslayer. I don't get to make them discard another card, but I do get to eat the creature. Save the Gates Ablaze. Here's Manticore, no sack. But it's still a 4/3 against a 2/4. Gates Ablaze is at 4 damage now, which is kind of insane. Nowhere near big enough to kill a Gate Colossus, and they can just put that right back on top of their deck if I shoot it. They do have to play a gate to do that, so I'm still going to do that. I'm going to hold on to land 7 in case I start hitting my Blood Tithe Harvesters, so I can use blood tokens to get out of the mana flood. Still nothing to reanimate with Warkite, but if I don't draw anything better, I'm still just going to need to play the Flyer next turn. How do I not have any of my supernatural stamina combos? We did not draw these cards in a good sequence today. Arena is not going to allow any fun. Supernatural stamina being a 0 out of 10 in this deck, despite all of our great combos with it. And I probably just have to wait to draw another gate now. I don't really see any other line. I could Warkite and Stamina trying to block and kill Skyrider Elf, but that's going to be against a bunch of open mana. Feels risky. Guess I'll hold up the Stamina, but I'm not going to block and cast it. I'm really just establishing a scary enough board that they have to think twice about attacking to where I can just take the 5 and then crack back at them. Oof. Alright, draw 3. Luckily it still costs them a lot of mana here, so they don't get to play any other creatures this turn. Alright, Warkite does hold them off. That is gate 5 for a 5 damage gate to Blaze. Which I don't really want to do right now. Just have that ready for the future. It's probably double attack stamina here. Even without a good enter effect. Get as much pressure as we can while we can. It's so wild how good this game could have been if we just had like a Blood Tithe Harvester to reanimate with the Warkite off of all the multiple Warkite triggers we've gotten. Sad we hit no 3-drops all game. Archon, no way to kill that, and that's got first strike, so we pass. I mean, I can Gates Ablaze it, but then I also lose my whole way to deal any damage, so if I'm going to Gates Ablaze, I'd rather wait for them to play more. Oh! A 1-3 my last draft. That's so sad. Well, I could choose not to play Disciple here. I still think I don't Gates Ablaze yet. I can attack, they block something with Primordial, then Gates Ablaze does kill Primordial. Jesus. Bane of Balagad, Celestial Archon, Tasigur, Compulsory Swift Reckoning. Gates Ablaze is never winning this game. It can kill all of these cards. It can, but they can just bestow this Archon onto Primordial and kill me. I guess I gotta hit Archon then? There's no shot here. Their deck is just so loaded with bombs on the top end. Double Archon, Sylvan Primordial, Tasigur, Gate Colossus, Bane of Balagad. Yeah, this is just unwinnable. God dang it. God dang it is the name of this video. That's not true. The YouTube algorithm probably wouldn't like that. God dang it is the theme of this video. I think this deck is better than What? What? I'm going home. Goodbye, Pioneer Masters. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. That's what I get for not drafting Boros or Gates. We get 1-3. That was sad. I think this deck has a lot of good card quality to it. I was trying to be an idiot with the Supernatural Stamina stuff. I did not expect it to ever go that badly. Supernatural Stamina was horrible here. We pretty much exclusively hit it at the wrong time. I'm like, in theory, like with Gearcrafter style abilities, with Disciple, with Warkite, it's really strong with all these cards and Dreadhound as well. But it just never lined up like that. Sin Collector, it's also incredibly powerful with. It's solid with Pilgrim's Eye. We did get to do the Pilgrim's Eye Supernatural Stamina the one time. That was pretty solid. It's solid with Harvester as well. Yeah, there's so many cards it's solid with, but it was just terrible. It was terrible today. Gates Ablaze went pretty dang hard. That played super well. The Dreadbores were incredible as well. Blood Tithe Harvesters were great. Gear Crafters were great. Night Howler was solid. Yeah, I don't think this deck had anything massively wrong with it up front. We just ran into the nuts there. Boros aggro on the play just demolished us before we could do anything because we were still playing tap lands and we didn't have Gates Ablaze in the opener. And then our final game, we just got bombed the heck out. Our opponent was over there with the whole artillery. And because my memory sucks, I don't remember our first loss, but I really don't think there was much we could do in the last two. I think we just ran into some really, really strong decks where we kind of get demolished. I guess that's one of the things in this format, right, is that if you're a mid-rangey deck like this, you really have to have some very, very strong rares. Because the Gates decks, when they hit the late game, like there's the two different ends of the spectrum, right? There are the mono red and the Boros aggro style decks that are so absurdly aggressive, you are never going to outrace them with a mid-range deck. You have to draw a really solid opener with a ton of efficient removal and Gates Ablaze style stuff to survive against those decks if they're on the play against you. So, because there's those really powerful, super fast decks that have a bit of a weaker late game, and then Gates decks on the other end of the spectrum that have a super powerful late game but a pretty weak early game. The mid-range decks have got to have a lot of power to them or they're not going to keep up on those two different axes. You can get easily outraced by the Boros decks and crushed before you do anything, or if the game goes long, you can easily get out power leveled by the Gates decks with their multitude of late game powerful plays, and that is actually where our losses really were today. We could not survive the incredible early aggro from Boros, and we couldn't outclass the incredible late game plays from Gates decks. I think mid-range is a bit awkward in this format if you don't have just an absurd amount of interaction like Dimir has. I think Dimir is probably one of the best control-y mid-rangey decks with a bunch of Essence Scatters and Omnix's Cruelties and stuff. Or you just have incredible rares and mythics of your own. Mid-range is a bit of a dead zone in this format. I think that's a pretty accurate assessment because that's thinking back on previous games, previous drafts, what has done really well, what hasn't done really well. It's been almost exclusively insanely aggressive decks or insanely slow Gates decks as like the best decks in the format. You've really got to be one of those ends of the spectrums. So, yeah, is what it is. Not a super fun way to end the format, but I guess a pretty fitting one. Still learning lessons about the format, still contextualizing things that I guess I already knew a little bit inherently, and this is why I kind of avoided this kind of deck in the past. During the draft, I just kind of instinctually felt like these decks didn't play super well, but now we kind of put it into words here, put it into video with getting crushed by Boros and Gates in the same draft. Yeah. Is what it is. Sad way to end the format, but I am happy it's gone. Not because it's horrible. It's just probably my least favorite set of the last year, and I'm just happy to be doing some variety drafts again. That is always when I'm happiest. When I get to draft a different format every week, we get to do Duskmourn drafts into a Duskmourn Arena Direct, then we get to do Outlaws of Thunder Junction drafts at the same time as Chromatic Cube drafts. Then we get to do March of the Machine drafts as the same time as Chromatic Cube drafts. and then the launch of Aether Drift is upon us. So we're in the most exciting period for me personally. I mean, the set release is the most exciting part. That is the cherry on top at the very end. That's when things are really cool. When we get that brand new format, we get to see what Aether Drift is like and draft that. But the lead up to a new set is always great as well. The current draft format always gets a little bit old once we're really late into its time cycle, like we are with Pioneer Masters. So it'll be nice to look back on some of the other formats and add a little variety for now. So that is going to end today's video. But as always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for supporting this channel, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.